Thank you so much for being here. To begin with the beginning, I wanted to ask you about your beginnings and how it all started, how you came to art, how art came to you, and your beginnings at St. Martin's.
I think we had enormous luck at the very beginning of our life.
For me, it was an amazing beginning because I found George in 1969 in September. And after that, after 1 year at St. Martin, we left St. Martin and they did not want to know anything about us anymore. So that was very lucky because we knew we were alone.
It was extremely good because not having been the goody-goody students, we wouldn't have been able to apply for a grant or a subsidized studio or a part-time teaching job or anything like that. So we were poor and alone, and we knew that we just had one chance, which was to become artists. We even asked the advice of our old head of department and told him about our ideas for creating a new kind of art that spoke to people wherever they were in the world, that wasn't an elitist art, that needed specialized knowledge. And he listened very politely, very carefully, and said that he thought it was very, very interesting, and he hoped very much that we would not succeed, but that he rather thought we might.
And it was extraordinary because being alone, we felt we didn't have a studio, so what could we do? We could make ourselves the art. No? We made ourselves the living art, and we were able to have an art that was able to speak direct to the viewer and have feelings, being unhappy, happy, and what they call thinking about other feelings, all the stuff. And that, for us, was the biggest invention of us.
And did you have mentors or artists who sort of gave you advice? I mean, I remember last time we met, you showed me this meal with David Hockney, so he was supportive.
Yes, everyone was very kind and very polite and friendly. I must say, the more senior artists at that time. It was extraordinary. But we were doing a different kind of art, and that became very, very clear with almost our first exhibition. It was in Düsseldorf, and we had a wonderful private view in an evening, and everyone had drinks and dinners, and we even sold 1 or 2 pictures, which was extraordinary at that time. And then we went into the gallery on the following morning, and the gallery dealer was sitting at his desk, looking very glum, and we asked him if he had a hangover. He said, no. Ooh, very grumpy and very miserable looking. And we made him tell us what was the matter. And the matter was, he said, the woman who cleared the gallery, she likes your exhibition. In the 1970s, that was a sin, that if people liked your exhibition.
And even before that show in Düsseldorf, there were obviously your early beginnings in London. And in the context of 89 Plus, we discussed a lot, actually, with Simo in Munich already in January, when we were with Nico the Icon, whom you just all met earlier, about this idea that very often artists now can become visible actually in a very self-organized way. Nico has become visible a lot through the internet and less through museum or gallery shows. And you once told me this great story about when attitudes become form, and it wasn't actually an official invitation which created your presence there. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that was a very good example of our belief that bad luck always leads to good luck. We knew that there was a world-traveling exhibition called When Attitudes Become Form. It was a very famous curator. It was subtitled Live in Your Head, and it was going around the world, and wherever it landed, a local curator would be invited to add 3 artists to the show. We knew it was coming to London, and we knew who the curator was, and we knew that he would choose us, as there were only 3 or 4 artists in London anyway. And much to our horror and amazement, he didn't choose us. So we were cast into an amazing feeling of doom and gloom. We felt this was a unique opportunity which would never come again, where we could launch ourselves on a more international scale. So the only thing we could do was to gate crash the private view as living sculptures. So we went with our multicolored metallized heads and hands and stood in the middle of the exhibition and completely stole the show. And towards the end of the evening, a young man came up to us and said, I am Konrad Fischer. You do something with me in Düsseldorf, huh?
Oh, yeah.
This was the most famous art dealer in the world at that moment. Every young artist would have died for that invitation, yes?
But for us, it was very important that we always managed to keep ourselves alone. and outsiders. And we never made an art that uses more than ourselves to make the art. We never have assistants. We have one half assistant now, but if not, it's all in-house, and that for us is extraordinary, because freedom is the most important thing in art, that you are a free person, are able to do and say whatever you want.
And that freedom and working without assistance continues for you in the digital age, and I thought it would be interesting if you tell us a little bit how the computer changed the way you work, because there has been a massive change in the last 3 or 4 years through your entire digital archive and also the way you now work digitally with your pictures.
It's extraordinary because the computer is so near to you. It's like in your head. You don't have to go up ladders anymore and have the complicated way of making art. It is like having your brain in the computer. You are able to think with a computer, and it's extraordinary for us. It made us totally free. Not only that, we were able to photograph our archive that goes back to 1969. We did it all ourselves, like 20,000 images, all in grouping and all the stuff. So it's, instead of having 20 cupboards, we have one disc.
It's extraordinary that, in fact, it feels as though we've been practicing and rehearsing for the computer all those years when, in fact, we were using the darkroom technology. The language is very, very close. Layers, separating this out, having lines. It's as though we were practicing, even years before we had a computer or could have been able to have a computer. Young people said, "Which computer are you using?" when we weren't.
And they all ask us, what do we miss about old
say,
technique?
But don't you miss the romance of the darkroom, with the red lights and the smell of the chemicals and all the chemicals and everything? So we don't miss that at all. The only thing we miss is the rubber gloves.
And can you tell us a little bit what's happening now in the studio, because you're working on this amazing new series of work, which is all digitally produced imagery?
We are drunk and elated and overexcited because we are in the middle of creating a group of pictures which don't have a title because they haven't told us what the title will be yet. It's a group of pictures which more than ever are telling us how they want to be. It is as though the pictures are saying, "Gilbert, George, don't interfere. We know how we want to be." And we're very excited by that. We're trying to do pictures about those matters which concern everybody, everything in the world, except the artist. So we feel that we as artists can bring something different to that subject.
So it was quite exciting because we were able to take all these images. Now we started like in February to take images, and we took a lot of different images, I don't know, like 15,000 different images, and we selected in grouping all the stuff. And now we made the designs. The designs are very perfect design. They are 10% of the big piece. And we already did 71 design. We are hoping to do 100 or 120 design. So it's quite extraordinary that we are able to create all these amazing big pictures there in one little studio.
So the pictures go on, and as long as they will let us have them, we will create them. And all of these pictures are filled with the most amazing coincidences. Every picture backfires or tells us something that we never dreamt of. We did a picture to do with nitrous oxide and then just looked it up, and that's all connected with Joseph Priestley, who was a libertarian, a Unitarian, who had a church. He had a slightly different idea of Christianity, so he was beaten up, his house knocked down, his church destroyed, he ran to America. Then we did another picture called Ridley Road, which is a street market near us. It's a very wretched, run-down street, and there's a church nearby. And we did the picture, Ridley Road. We wanted to include the church for some reason, and we wanted to make it look as though it was burning, for no reason that we understood. We finished the picture, and then we thought, we wonder who Ridley Road is named after. Was there a Mr. Ridley? We went to the dictionary biography, and there was Bishop Ridley, Bishop of Rochester, then Bishop of London. Then he got into trouble because of his different belief in Christianity. He was taken to Oxford and burnt at the stake. So the picture became true.
And it's very exciting because we don't have to go anywhere. It's all in front of our door with all our subjects. We never have to go anywhere. And they are so extreme, the subjects, and so up to date.
We finish work every day. If we finish one picture or 1.5, then we go upstairs exhausted, switch on the television news, and they're discussing all of those things that are in the pictures.
Or we watch B-movies, cowboy B-movies in the 1940s.
Now it's incredibly exciting because you not only agreed to this conversation, but you also brought a small presentation, so maybe it's a good moment.
I mean, they are not new, but they are always the same. Just a second, George, I have to put my glass on.
We will start with the laws of the sculptures. They are from 1969, and they're for us, not for anybody else. Number 1, always be smartly dressed, well-groomed, relaxed, friendly, polite, and in complete control.
Number 2, make the world to believe in you and to pay heavily for this privilege.
Number 3, never worry, assess, discuss, or criticize, but remain quiet, respectful, and calm.
Number 4, the Lord chisels still, so don't leave your bench for long.
And then we move to the 1995 with the 10 Commandments for ourselves. Number 1, thou shalt fight conformism.
Number 2, thou shalt be the messengers of freedoms.
Number 3, thou shalt make use of sex.
Number 4, thou shalt reinvent life.
Number 5, thou shalt grab the soul.
Number 6, thou shalt give thy love.
Number 7, thou shalt create artificial art.
Number 8, thou shalt have a sense of purpose.
Number 9, thou shalt not know exactly what thou dost, but thou shalt do it.
Number 10, thou shalt give something back. That's it.
There we are.
Now I've got a few last questions. Ever since I visited you for the first time as a student, I always met, you don't teach in art schools, but you always have this dialogue to a younger generation of artists. I remember always when I visited you for the first time, you introduced me to David Robilliard, and that was actually an homage to David Robilliard, was your participation in the Poetry Marathon. During the research this year, you introduced us to Tom Huet, who is part now of the Digital Commissions. Can you tell us a little bit about these dialogues?
I suppose we've always been very interested in young people, and
We're trying to, we're trying to be positive. We're trying to make them do it. That's the most important thing.
we always say to young artists that we meet, you look marvelous art, you do extraordinary art. They say, but we didn't see anything. We say it's not necessary. We can tell that. You know? We can see talent.
And what would be, because Rainer Maria Rilke wrote this wonderful little book, which is an advice to a young poet, and it kind of inspired us here to have these different advices. We have the advice to a young poet by Etel Adnan, Mary Mitchell's advice to a young philosopher. What would be your advice in 2013 to a young artist?
I suppose for young artists it's very important, we always say, quit the daytime job. And even more importantly, quit the nighttime one as well.
And what would be your advice to an art student?
As always, we have 2 pieces of advice to the students, the same ones we've always had. We say, when you get up out of bed tomorrow morning, don't stand, sit on the edge of the bed, keep your eyes closed, and think, what do I want to say to the world today? And only move and get up when you've decided. And the second piece of advice to the art student is...
Fuck the teachers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.